Right, welcome to our first episode of Home Ed Me podcast. And this is Sid, and I've got a special guest with me today. We've got Sam, and this podcast is going to be a new one, which we're going to do every single week on Thursdays between 3:30 to 5 p.m., looking at different areas of learning and education at home. So today we're going to be focusing on mindset, and I've got with me an amazing educator and life coach, Sam. So
You're too
Sam,
kind, Sid. You're too kind.
how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm really well. I'm going to be honest. It's been a rough month in some ways. That we've all experienced lots of change, but it feels like it's a bit more steady now, and we're helping more people. So yeah, I'm doing really awesome. The sun definitely helps, and yeah, just feeling really happy. Thank you.
Right,
Great to be here.
I'm going to check that we're live. We are live. We are live, and people are watching us. So you can comment on YouTube and live on YouTube right at this minute. So this is going to be a 90-minute podcast. It's a brand new structure for myself. I used to do radio. We did that for 2 years. But we used to get call-ins for radio. So this is going to be weird in that we're not going to be able to have a chat with anyone on the phone, but you can always message, leave your comments, leave your questions for Sam, questions for me, and we will tackle them live on air. How exciting.
How exciting.
So first episode is always going to be a bit hit and miss. We don't know which direction it's going to go in. But the structure of this is going to be, for the first part of the session, we're going to learn a bit more about Sam, about his life, how he got to where he is, what he does. We're going to learn about his amazing work as a life coach and the work that he does in schools through his company called Student Breakthrough. And then for the second part of the show, we're going to do a bit of application. How can we apply what you do in schools, in the home, in this current kind of pandemic? What can the parents be doing with their kids at home, which are going to be helping them with their mindset? And then finally, in the last bit, is going to be the challenge section. So there, I've got some questions that I'm going to, random questions I'm going to bring out to get you thinking outside of the box. But if any of you guys have got questions at home that you think, so what do I mean by challenge questions? I'll give you an idea. Right, I've got myself a what if book. Okay.
What's your
so these questions are completely out of the box. And I don't expect the questions that you guys are going to be submitting to be like this crazy. But, these are going to be really tough to do on air. But I've got other questions that I've actually got written that I'm going to be doing with you. So you're going to get a chance to think outside of the box.
Very exciting.
You on the spot and see how you do under pressure.
You didn't tell me that bit.
Sorry?
You didn't tell me about that bit.
You didn't read the paragraph I sent you about what's going to be happening today. Okay, so to start off with, let's have a bit of an insight into who you are, Sam, and what you're all about.
Great stuff, Sid. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to be here today. Guys, if you're watching, thank you so much for watching and stopping by. Really, really grateful. So my name is Sam Moinet. I'm a speaker, a teacher, a student coach, and I'm founder of this business called Student Breakthrough. And I taught history in secondary schools for 5 years. In my time, I saw so many problems from anxiety, mental health, low motivation, lack of confidence. And I felt that no one was doing anything about it. And in my NQT years, my first year of teaching, I was going through some massive challenges myself. And I was really, really low. I didn't want to go to school. I didn't want to get out of bed. I was pretty depressed and anxious. And I met someone who changed my life. And this guy was a coach. And on the 23rd of April, 2015, for the first time, I was able to express myself, to really, it almost felt like a weight was getting lifted off my shoulders in this coaching process, which is really positive, really present. And coaching really changed my life. And it sounds cliche to say that, but when I went back into school, I still saw the same problems. And then one night I thought, well, a bit like Sid probably with her business, why can't I do something to help? Why can't I do something to change the lives of young people? And that's exactly what I decided to do. So I got a coaching qualification, started working with some students in secondary school, and the results we got were just amazing. Like, students stopped comparing themselves to others, their grades improved, their mental health improved. And all of a sudden, I really felt like I was onto something.
Okay, let's go back even further.
Yeah, sure.
Because you've kind of jumped your entire life, right? So as a student yourself,
Yeah.
so a lot of the people that are going to be listening, they're going to be quite young. What was your experience through school? What did you enjoy? What do you remember? Did you have some amazing teachers? What is it that drew you to go back into teaching again?
Great question. School was great for me. Like I was the classic middle of the road kid, I guess. I'm not very clever. I'm not but I'm very hardworking. So I wasn't the cleverest guy, but I always gave my all, always put in lots of effort. I spent years wasting so much energy comparing myself to other people. And if you're watching this at school, I know it's hard at school because you're literally in this bubble and you can't escape. When you're an adult, you get to like leave and find your own friends. But at school, it can be quite tough. And man, I wasted so much time, energy, putting other kids on, the cool kids on a pedestal, thinking, why aren't I clever enough? Why aren't I, attractive enough? Why can't I be good at sports as them? And I really struggled with that. So that was a kind of a thing that held me back at school a lot. I was very hardworking, very determined. I didn't get in trouble. I was that kind of quiet middle of the road student, but I did compare myself. And if you're watching this, massive thing is love who you are, focus on your strengths, and don't worry about anyone else because everyone is different. Everyone is unique, and at school it can be challenging. But just look inside and think, what are my strengths? What am I good at? And start loving those, and don't worry about other people.
Okay, so did you have like a favorite teacher? Did you have a favorite subject? Do you remember anyone that you kind of a teacher that you looked up to that you then ended up role modeling?
Yeah, I never wanted to. I've always loved history. I remember as a primary school student, we had a guy come in who was dressed as a Roman soldier, and that was really when I fell in love with history. I think my dad was a Royal Marine and he fought in the Falklands War. So we've got he's a big military history nerd himself, right? So we've got World War I weapons, artifacts in our house. So I've always been surrounded by history. And I went to A levels. I met this teacher called Mr. Cape Bread. Unbelievable guy, super passionate, funny, relatable, just made me love the subjects. And it actually led me to take a university for 3 years. So yeah, I never wanted to be a teacher. I just chose history and the rest is kind of history, I guess. That's not sound cliche.
Yeah, school at university, sorry. What area of history did you kind of pursue for 3 years?
So it's like any degree, you get you have to do a bit of everything. I did the history of the environment, which if I'm honest is really, really boring. You have to do everything in the first year. So a little bit medieval, modern, history of the environment. I ended up specializing in, I guess, modern history, 20th century, fascism, First World War, communism and the study of Russia. So that was really where my passion lied. But I love it. And I love the subject so much. I still get to teach it. It's my original passion. And you're going to disagree with me, Sid, but I think it's the most important subjects. One of every teacher will say that about their subjects. And it is a real honor and privilege to help kids and students understand history. It still gives me a massive buzz and I miss it.
We've just had a comment saying it's not actually on YouTube. Someone's WhatsApped me and said, "Wow, this is good for me also." So people are watching.
There we go. Hi, if you're watching.
As well. So do send your messages in, and we can ask questions to Sam as well.
Yeah, do it. Really do it. But yeah, no, history, I love it. That teacher really, and that's the thing with teaching. It's not arrogant for me to say this. People liked coming to my lessons. I was vulnerable with students. They knew who I was. I wasn't a robot. I let them into my life a little bit. Not I'm not saying everything, but I was myself.
Yeah.
And the teachers who are themselves, the teachers who let students in a little bit, they're the best teachers. And I brought loads of students through that GCSE and A level who probably didn't actually like history that much, but they might have appreciated me and the style of teaching that I brought on. And that was a real privilege and a pleasure. And that's what I try and bring into my work now. It's that relatability, that trust. And Sid, if you look back to your school time and your favorite teachers, they're probably the ones that you felt you had a bit of a deeper connection with, and we can only get that through being open and being vulnerable with our students to an extent.
Definitely. So I remember when I was at school, and I loved physics, not because of the subject, but because of the teacher, because he was relatable, and he would kind of tell us about his life. And he was like, oh, I've got a screw in my shoulder because he'd broken his shoulder, and he'd talk about his operation and stuff, and you could relate to him, and you could have a laugh with him. And I was so terrified of studying physics at uni, because I thought, what if it's just the teacher? What if I don't actually like the subject? And I was ready to give it up if I didn't enjoy it, but I ended up actually pursuing it. But it's so true. And I think one of the things that I kind of look at schools and kind of go, that's probably not the best way of doing it. Like teachers which are so distant from their students, and there's a kind of divide, and students then see their teachers as a perfect person that makes no mistakes and knows everything. And I think that's probably the wrong image to give kids as well, because what you're saying is when you become an adult, everything's perfect, and it's not. And I think it's fine to kind of go, right, this isn't working. Or for me, I can't do spellings. I always make spelling mistakes, and I've done this in my YouTube lives again and again. And you know what? I am okay with that, because that shows to students I'm human. We're able to make mistakes, and it's fine, and you learn from it. So I will look up. I'll be live on air. I'll be like, hang on, let me just check how to spell that, because I don't know. And that's perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine to show your flaws to your students, because it's a learning experience for them as well.
Vulnerability is just massive, and I think it's overlooked. Obviously with teachers, it's a sign of weakness. That's why people don't do it, and people maybe don't show their true side, because they're worried if they let someone in, they're going to get hurt. And let's be honest, 30 students, it has the opportunity for you to be hurt a little bit. But I was always myself. Like, I'm super clumsy. I'm always falling in, knocking into stuff, and I do that in my classroom, and everyone would laugh at me, and I'd laugh with myself, and I'd laugh at myself.
It's fine.
And it's that sort of environment you want to create, where it is that safety. Students don't want to come into an environment where they could get shouted at or sent out. And yes, if they've maybe done bad behavior, like I never raise my voice. And it's about just like nice environment. And I generally feel that is the stage one. If you want to be a good teacher, that should be really the first thing we get taught, is how to really connect and be vulnerable with our students. And it's not really taught. You just kind of shoved in the door and said, like, right, either sink or swim, basically.
You're taught how to teach the content, but you're not taught how to be a person. And teaching is a very human subject. You got to be able to relate to the kids, otherwise it's not going to work. And it's really interesting you mentioned about not raising your voice. And it's a lot of teachers will create a battlefield in their own classroom, where it becomes about who shouts the loudest.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
So I think that's a big factor there. So teaching, how did you get into it? You've talked about how you enjoy doing it. How did you get into going from history to going to teaching?
Yeah, I did kind of launch into my, I guess, a quick fire. Whenever I get like interviewed on podcasts, I don't know how much story or how quick I should go. So I kind of jumped
really
into
fast.
it.
We've got an hour and a half. We can slow down.
Slow down. Cool. So I never wanted to be a teacher. I had no idea what I wanted to do really, but I knew that I wanted to be a soldier. I mentioned that my dad fought in the Falklands War in the 1980s. He's a Royal Marine. My whole family's got this family history, military history. I think as young men, as guys, we look up to our dads. My dad never sat me down and said, you need to go and be a soldier. But that's what I took on. And I wanted to do it. I wanted to do it for the family history, the uniform, the adventure. And I wanted it since I was 10 years old. Let's flip back to me at school, the middle of the road kid, not that confident, compared himself to others. I thought that army thing would give me some confidence, would help me to express myself in the best way. So yeah, I never wanted to be a teacher. No even thoughts or considerations. Soldiering was me. I got accepted in 2012 into the Royal Anglian Regiment, which is in Norfolk. So my local regiment, so I wanted to join that as an officer. Got the letter saying they were going to sponsor me through Sandhurst. My life was going down the military route. And then 2 weeks later, I got a massive curveball, and I got a letter through the post that said, Sam, unfortunately, you failed the medical exam because you've been diagnosed with Crohn's disease. And if you've been at your lowest point, that might have been my lowest point to date, definitely one of them. So think of a time when you're at your worst or lowest. That was one for me.
I guess you'd built up your entire life around this career dream,
Mhm.
and suddenly it's just been taken away. So all your plan for the future is just gone.
Yeah,
How,
overnight, like instantly.
how do you? And then it's a double whammy, because did they not just say no? You've also just figured out that you've got something that you've got to deal with now. Is that how you found out, through their medical exam?
No. I've got such a mild condition of it. Now, some people with Crohn's have like, serious operations. They really can't eat certain stuff. Mine is ridiculously mild. So it's a bit before that. Yes, I was a little naive, but I didn't think it would stop me. It hasn't stopped me anyway in my life. So no, it wasn't a double. It was quite close to the time though. So it wasn't a double whammy, but it was kind of like one punch and then an uppercut. And I was kind of on the floor, sort of, what do I do now? And I felt like a victim for a couple of years after that. Instantly I cried for a few days. I got a random job in M&S and just kind of bummed around, and I felt like a victim, and I felt like, why do I have Crohn's? And I wasn't engaging with my failure. And that's a massive thing that we need to talk about in this podcast is, if you're watching this and you're a student, you might have a clear one direction where you're going to go. You might have a clear vision about what you want, but up until that point, I didn't really appreciate that stuff comes your way. And here's the gold, right? That was meant for me. That was meant to. And now you might think that, well, what do you mean you're meant to have Crohn's? Soldiering wasn't for me. I'm quite a sensitive guy. I'd be good as a soldier in some ways, but that's not really my identity. And when I got coached that first time, that was the first time I engaged with that failure in 2 years. And that's why it was such an emotional experience, because I was just like peeling back layers a bit like an onion, and really finally identifying that that wasn't for me.
Everything happens for a reason. It's just about, we don't appreciate it at the time. And then later on, we realize actually the wisdom in why things happen the way that they happen.
Yeah. And I think if you're watching this and you're a student and you might have had a failure or a setback, even if it's a score on a test, like, don't identify yourself with that. And also learn that in a year or a couple of years or whenever it is, if you look back and connect the dots and look at your life, as Sid said, like, that was meant for you. It's taught you so much stuff. And I'm beyond grateful that I've got Crohn's. I'm beyond grateful that I fell into education. And I did fall into it because I didn't want to do it. My mum was a teacher, by the way. That's why I got into it. So she was a teacher, primary school teacher. And my parents run a couple of nursery schools here in Milton Keynes. So I've been in education, I guess, sort of around that environment. For me, it was just going to get a couple of skills, get a qualification, do 2 years, and then go and do something else. But it didn't turn out that way. And I'm so grateful for that.
Okay, so you will go into teaching, and then you realize actually there's things that you want to change within the education sector.
Yeah.
So at what point did you kind of go, I can't do this from within, I need to leave, I need to do something bigger, and I need to take a different radical approach? Because I think there's loads, for teachers that are listening, there's probably loads of teachers out there that feel frustrated with the system, because the system isn't, even if you've gone into teaching because you love teaching, it limits what you can do because of the way it's structured, because of the amount of content you have to cover, and just the structure of the schooling system in general. So for those teachers that are listening, at what point did you realize that, okay, I got to leave teaching to be able to make a difference in teaching?
Great question. Now, when I said I didn't want, I fell into teaching, again, it was never selfishly, I guess. It was never a long-term gig for me anyway, even when I started to like it. Like being around a family environment, since I can remember, of my parents running businesses, being entrepreneurial. You can't do that in the classroom. So I do remember trying to control this. And when I say control, I remember sitting in a park and I was trying to write down ideas of businesses linked to education, whether it was tutoring, forest schools, nursery schools, whatever. But I was trying to force it. And unfortunately, when we try to force stuff, we're not creative. It's when our mind is quiet and at peace. And Elizabeth Gilbert, in her book Big Magic, talks about these ideas that come to us. And if you're listening to this, you might have had that idea for a business or something or create something. Now, Sid obviously had an idea for this podcast. Now, she could have been hit with that idea of wisdom and insight. And she could have been like, you know what? It's not for me right now. But I'm grateful that you actually followed this through, Sid. And it was okay if you didn't go follow through with it. And we all get ideas, and it's about not forcing it. And what I'm saying by this is, like, I just woke up one night and thought, wow, I can coach students. And then I went with it. And if I hadn't gone with it, someone else might have picked up that idea. And that's amazing. The system did get me down, but I did want to leave at some point, and I always wanted to work for myself. But here's the thing. I would never have left teaching to do another random business or a random job. It had to be working with young people. And luckily, just everything aligned for me.
So
And
teaching within a school environment made you realize that actually you want to work with people. You want to work with young people.
Young people, yeah. I wouldn't have left anywhere and not work with children, students. Like, that is what fires me up. So if I wasn't going to do that, I'd still be teaching. Now, teaching is a noble career. I love it to bits, but I had to leave to grow. I remember I was at a personal development event. We were doing Tony Robbins' 6 human needs. If you haven't seen it, one of them is growth. And my friend nudged me. He's like, that's why you left school. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, you couldn't grow. And I don't mean grow as in like physically up. I mean, for me to grow and develop as a human being, I had to leave that environment because it is restrictive. But at the same time, I could have trained to coach and still be working in a school. And my school in Northamptonshire, 1,800 students, and that would have fulfilled me. But I just have I don't want to sound arrogant, but like, I feel like I have a bigger purpose with what I'm doing with this, and it needs to be out there. And I wouldn't be doing students. I'd be doing students a disservice if I was playing small, if that makes sense. So I had to leave. But I miss it. I miss the classroom environment. I miss the energy. I miss those like late night, like parents' evenings, those when you like connected. No, but when you're connected with a team, and I had a great team at that school, and we great banner, and we got on really well. And I miss all that. But I don't miss the data, micromanagement, marking, learning walks, deep dives, whatever they're called now, Ofsted. Like, I don't miss the scrutiny. But I miss the kids, and I miss the classroom environment. It's amazing. It's a special place, teaching.
I guess you can take, I think the beauty of working in an educational business like myself and yours as well, is that you can take the best aspects and you can get rid of the aspects that you didn't like in a school environment and just focus on what you want to be doing and what you're passionate about without having someone watching your shoulder every 2 minutes. And I think that's the beauty of what you're doing. That's the beauty of what I'm doing, because I felt exactly the same. Now I can teach science the way that I want to teach, but without having to worry about sitting an exam, without having to worry about, am I keeping up with the curriculum? Because we're writing the curriculum, right? So we get to do what we want to do and be passionate about it.
And I think unless you've got that idea that lights you up, and I remember, I think the first time I spoke to you was a while ago now, but I think you said, I want to bring back a love of learning. And that stuck with me. And we've had quite a few conversations. And for you, I would like to assume that that is your higher purpose, really, is to bring that love of learning, love of science, love of practical stuff back into the classroom. And when you've got that higher purpose, that vision, like, nothing can stop you. And when you have those low days, when you're struggling, you feel like quitting, you feel like giving up, you think of, well, I'm giving a love of learning to young people and students. And that's what drives you. And what drives me is revolutionizing emotional support, making students more successful, happy and confident, and changing things. That's what fires me up every day. So when I'm feeling those low points, like quitting, which I do because I'm a human being, and I get anxious and I get down, that high purpose is what picks me up and carries me forward. So I think the spin-off is, unless you've got a reason why that you'd sacrifice lots for, then
it's
leaving it is worth it, but you've got to have that. Otherwise I would have thrown in the towel 2 years ago.
Yeah, I would have done it a lot earlier, because I've been doing this for 10 years now.
Yeah.
So I would have done it a lot earlier. But it's interesting that you mentioned the low days, and the days where I have a low day, I always get a message from a parent or from a student on Facebook or WhatsApp or text or phone call that will go, oh, my kid is loving what you're doing. I always get that. And I think it makes such a big difference, because on those low days, I am so close at quitting. And then I get that message and I'm like, I'm making a difference. And I think validation is what we all kind of crave, and students crave that, and we crave that, and it comes in lots of different forms. And it's really important as humans that we validate people that are supporting us and helping us, because it makes a difference. We all experience those low points, but having someone recognize that you're doing something amazing, it never goes amiss. Like, everyone appreciates that, and I think it's very important that we appreciate people that support us and help us.
And I would argue in education, when you don't do a good job of that, and it's no one's fault, it's because we've got so much stuff to do. If you're a teacher watching this, you're like, you know this, like the last thing you're going to do is give a colleague a compliment on the lesson, or learning walks, or whatever they're called, you know, always like critical. There's never really many positives, even if you've done a great lesson. And I feel for me, I used to think that recognition, being motivated by recognition, was a bad thing, because obviously when you're not getting recognized, then you're not motivated. But I think you're right. Validation, for me, it's recognition. And selfishly, I get more recognition doing this. Like, I like standing out. I like being unique. I like being different. In teaching, I didn't get recognized.
But you're not doing it because you're being recognized. You're doing it, and as a result of it, you're being recognized.
Yeah, true.
Difference. And it's a difference in mindset, and a difference of, because you're talking here about growth and fixed mindset. Fixed mindset is the recognition. You're chasing the recognition. Growth mindset is you're loving the journey, and as a result of it, you're getting recognized. But that's not the ultimate aim. And I think that's very important when we talk about grades, and we talk about what you're chasing in life. This is two different paths, and I think it's important to recognize the difference. The results might be the same, but it's your mindset to get to that point is very different. Like, we met at an awards evening.
Yeah, we're on stage next to each other. I haven't even said a word to you. I was like, who's this?
Exactly. So we were both on stage together. We're being recognized for the work that we've done. Yeah. And it's nice to be recognized, and I think we both appreciate that. But at the same time, that's not why we do it. We do it because we love what we're doing.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think you've got to play a bigger game than just results, in terms of, like, you know, if I'd impacted 10,000 students, or I was making, let's be honest, like £10,000 a month, would I feel content or happy? That no way. Like, I'm playing a bigger game of actually changing education, changing the emotional support. And I know you are as well. And we have that infinite, Simon Sinek, you know, that infinite game where it's not results. We're not playing for like money or vanity metrics like cars or houses or whatever. Like, we're playing to change things, and we're playing for the long term. And that's what you need to be focused on. And
this is what makes me love what you do. And I think it's very rare to find people that share my values in that respect. Like, you are driven because you love what you're doing, and you feel really passionate about it. And I think you said this before as well. You're like, we're so much alike.
Yeah.
We were going to be working together because of that reason. And we were going to do stuff in March and April, but then coronavirus happened. So we might have to look at an alternative way of doing this. But yeah, it's amazing that you don't often meet people that share the same passions as you. And yeah, I've not met very many people in the years that I've been working on the business, and it's a shame.
Yeah, I think Cool Mahey, he speaks about being like valued people and not like-minded people. Like, I've got people that work with me now who I've only known for the last year, but I'm closer to them. I trust them more than friends I've known for 10 years.
Yeah.
And it's that like when we first met, I was like, we were speaking afterwards. I was like, I think I've known you. I felt like I've known you for years. And it's probably not, it's obviously not time thing. It's just because we're so like valued, you know, both teachers, both running stuff in education, both trying to help and improve things. That's who you should surround yourself with, not the people that obviously drag you down. Just start thinking about like, who am I connected with values wise? Because they're the people that really energize you. And every time I speak to Sid, every time I speak to you, I'm like we just got filled with energy, you know, I'm filled with energy and filled with positivity. And it's really, really special.
Right, so we're halfway through. Well, no, we're half an hour through our show now. So for those of you who are just joining in, this is our first show. Every week we're going to do a show on Thursdays between 3 and 5 p.m. Half 3. I've forgotten all my times. 3:30 and 5. It used to be 3 and 5 when I did the radio, so I've got that ingrained in me.
But it's your show, so you can do what you want.
Exactly. This is going to be 3:30 till 5 p.m. And it's going to be called the Home Ed Me podcast. Hopefully I'll turn it into a podcast as well at some point. So today we've got Sam with us as a guest. He is a life coach, and he's been telling us about his life and how he got into teaching, and then eventually how he got to starting his business, Student Breakthrough. So practical steps for families that are currently, well, we're all currently stuck at home. I was working out today, it's my 42nd day, or 41st, 41, I think it's 41 or 40, I've lost count, 41 or 42 since I've been home, okay? And it's day 52 since I decided not to do any face-to-face stuff in my business. I thought about this pretty early, and I think I called you, didn't I?
I'm going to hold my hands up here, and Sid was quite extreme. She said, I'm cancelling everything. I'm cancelling all my workshops. And I said, really?
We were going to be working together during
well,
that.
We were meant to be working together, and I'd lost lots of business as well as a result of this, and you have as well. But yeah, you were right. And you were like, I'm cancelling this, and this is how it's going to go down. And I was like, wow, Sid, that's extreme. You work for yourself. Like, is this worth it? And then literally like a week, 2 weeks later, we were all in lockdown. So yeah, I don't know, you must have had some conspiracy theory, or you knew the information before us all, or you just were very sensible.
No, the data was there. I think people were analyzing it, but it was really interesting. You know what? You were so humble about it, because I said the same thing. I had this conversation with a lot of people. Everyone that I was working with, I either called them or I messaged them, and I said, okay, this is what I'm doing in my business. This is what I think you should be doing in yours, because things are going to change. And I had similar reactions where people are like, it's too early, like nothing's happened yet. There's only 50 people in the UK that have got it. And I was like, no, it's in Birmingham. I know it's in Birmingham. We just haven't detected it yet. You were one of the very few people that actually messaged me back and put your hands up. And I think it's so humbling for someone to be able to do that. A lot of people kind of will go, they just ignore the fact that they were wrong. But the fact that you admit that you were wrong.
Yeah, I said, I'm sorry, like you were right. And I apologize, because I'm going to be honest, when you said you were doing this, and this just kind of says a lot about our reactions sometimes to things. I scoffed. I was like, why is she doing that? She's mad. Like, she's losing all this income. She's just herself. And it's important when you actually, when you've met someone who you do connect with, you have to be honest and upfront with them. Like, you have to say, I'm sorry. And I could have not, and I've probably still been this podcast with Sid, but to honor our relationship and like where we're going with we're working together, like, you've got to be upfront. And I held my hands up and I said, I'm sorry. And luckily you were like, don't worry about it, it's fine. Because you could have been like, well, told you so.
I think from my perspective, I have a lot more respect for you for saying, yeah, I hold my hands up high. And I think it's very important for people to admit when they're wrong, they're wrong. Even though like practically like 90% of the country was wrong at that point. So no one was doing anything. But just that, how small things make such a big difference, like the small gestures, and just you admitting there was someone else as well who I've actually got coming up in a couple of weeks' time. He did the same. He kind of laughed. He was worse though. You just kind of went, are you sure? He was just like sending me emails going, you're wrong with this. There are loads of information in there. And he was like, oh, the government's on this conspiracy. It's not really happening. And then a couple of weeks later, and I ignored him because I was like, I'm not getting involved in this. A couple of weeks later, he kind of goes, you are right, Sid. And it's so humbling to see that from someone that is so opinionated, to kind of backtrack and say, actually, I was wrong. Because it shows that they're open to learning. And they're open to other ideas.
Making mistakes and admitting them and holding your hands up. And so guys, if you want to get on the podcast, just like apologize to Sid and she'll get you on the podcast by the sounds of it.
No, I think I've got a really good set of guests that are going to be coming on that again share values, and I'm really excited. Some people I don't really know that well, but I've seen how they are with other people. I see the kind of business that they're running. I see the kind of work that they do. And I'm really excited to get to know them through the podcast. I think we've spent a lot of time getting to know each other prior to this, but a lot of other people I don't know that well at all. And this is what I used to love missing. I love this about my radio show. I used to get people in, know nothing about them. And at the end of the 2 hours, I felt like I knew everything about them But also, I bet you the audience that were listening in kind of got to get an insight into their lives. And even people that I'd known for years that I'd interview, and I'd find out about their lives that I didn't actually know before. Like I interviewed my physics teacher, Dr. Slasky. I interviewed him twice. And both occasions, I found out stuff about him that I had no idea before.
You give me a great idea for my podcast, which is called The Breakthrough Pod, by the way. We've got 2 episodes in just to promote it, to interview that teacher that inspired me.
You need to interview a teacher. Definitely.
That would be amazing.
Definitely interview.
I'll write that down.
When is your podcast, so people know?
Well, we've got episodes coming out every Friday. So we've done an intro episode. We've had a guy from Australia called Dale Sidebottom, who runs a company called Energetic Education. This week, tomorrow, 9 a.m., we've got a new podcast released with a guy who does skeleton bobsleigh for New Zealand. He's an Olympic athlete.
9 a.m.
9 a.m. It's pre-recorded. So it's so it's if you just search The Breakthrough Pod, it's on Spotify and other platforms. It's coming onto iTunes pretty soon. But yeah, it's all about inspiring stories, people overcoming failures and setbacks, and giving those life lessons to us and finding out more about people. You know, people's stories are really powerful.
You're gonna have to get me onto your show as well.
Yeah, we're gonna put you on. We're gonna get you on. 100%. 100%. Be great to have you.
So tune into
The Breakthrough Pod. The Breakthrough Pod.
Breakthrough Pod. That sounds really cool. I love the name, Student Breakthrough.
I actually hated the name when I first came up with it. I came up with it actually in this very room I'm in now. And I was calling it like Student Breakthrough Academy and the Breakthrough Academy and all this kind of stuff. And I came up with Student Breakthrough and I was like, yeah, I'll come up with something better than that. And after a while, I just fell in love with it. And it's kind of, it stands for change, revolution, and actually by helping students to break through and have these aha moments and these light bulb moments and rediscoveries and learnings. And that's why FIST, although it looks a little bit like communist propaganda from the 20th century, it's meant to be like that. It's meant to stand up for something. And that's why we have the FIST as our logo.
When I hear the word breakthrough, I always think of like shattered glass. So like if you ever produce like a video, an intro, you've got to do student breakthrough with his hand coming out and glass like shattering.
Oh, I like that.
You've got to do that because you're breaking through the layers of transparency as well. I don't know, it'll be so cool if you were able to do that.
Maybe I'll do that at an event when I come on stage, like kick through some glass and shatter some glass and then come on.
You're gonna have to do
maybe that's quite extreme.
Martial arts.
Martial arts. Headbutt. I'll just probably hurt myself, knock myself out or something and roll off stage. No, me.
We're gonna have to use that concept in one of our sessions that we do together.
Yeah, cool. Maybe not get students to do it, but yeah, we can come up with something.
Flames and glass.
I like that. Yeah, we had so many good. So me and Sid, if you're watching this, we were going to combine Sid's work with science, with my work, which is like mindset and coaching, into some practical workshop that we can run with students. And we're starting to get some real legs, just some great ideas. And I think it's going to be postponed, but what great concepts, like hooking students in with science and actual learning, like giving them academics, but then flipping it with like mindset and overcoming failure and strategies like this. And it was actually a really cool project. I was really excited about it, but you know, these things happen.
And I remember when I was trying to sell this idea to the person we had to get through, and at first he was like, no, it doesn't sound like what we're after. And I was like, but come on. I kind of went through the whole process and he was like, okay, that sounds interesting. And he brought into it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be really exciting. Even if we don't get to do it the way that we've imagined it, I think we should do an online version if I'm completely.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Really awesome.
I don't know how we're going to do the dissection and the flames in an online version, but it could work. It could be really cool. So in terms of, what were we talking about just before?
Strategies for homeschooling and practical stuff for parents, I think you said.
Yeah, so what are the strategies that you could give to people at home at the moment in which they could use with their kids to help support their learning? And because I think for a lot of people, it's a big, we were talking about how many days we've been in isolation. So like I've been in 42 days. That's a long time for someone to be in isolation. And for a lot of people, it's coming up to that kind of number. And for kids to be indoors, away from their friends, away from their social environments, and even for parents, how do we overcome that mindset mentality where we're kind of like this is the worst experience ever. How do you motivate yourselves? How do you get out of bed in the morning? I get out of bed in the afternoon, but yeah,
I do.
but
You get up so late.
I know, but then I work into the night. So how do you motivate yourself to actually dress up and to actually make something of the day? Because it's so easy to get into the cycle of not even attempting to get out of bed.
Yeah, great question. Firstly, there's no go-to. I can't wave a magic wand, and there's no go-to strategy here. In terms of there's no cookie cutter that we can use to every single person. I know there never is, but in this situation, I'm not going to use the U word because it does my head, the unprecedented word, but I'll use it anyway, the unprecedented word. Unprecedented, that no one knows really the best strategy, but I've seen some great things. I've seen some pretty bad things. Not a bad thing. Actually, let's talk about this quickly. So I've made an acronym called CALM. Don't know why I'm doing that. We'll do a little CALM. It's called CALM. It's calming Corona, and it's a little acronym for, I guess, parents and students to be aware of during this time. So the C in CALM stands for contribution and connection. So contribution and connection. The contribution word is, although we might be trapped inside or with our families, there's always stuff we can contribute to, whether it's helping our family members or I'm volunteering and helping people who are self-isolating in my hometown. So when we contribute, it fills us with, I guess, gratitude, positivity. So contribute to a family or your members of your household in a positive way and stay connected. That's obviously the other one. If you're a parent, sometimes it's going to be really strained because you never had this before. You might start thinking you're nagging and you're telling all the time. And I just change it up a little bit and build connection. And by doing that, it's really easy, just simple, just to listen deeply and listen with your heart.
So you're saying you build connection by listening, by
asking questions. Yeah, so listening, and not just listening to reply, listening to understand. Massive difference.
Yes.
Listening to reply. Now, me and Sid talking here, I'm listening to reply. As much as me and Sid get on, and I can't wait to work with her, and she's amazing, I'm not really listening right now to understand Sid. We're just having a conversation. Now, if I was to really listen to Sid and understand her, I'd go here to my heart. And it sounds weird listening with your heart, but that's kind of the awareness you need to have. If your son or daughters come to you and they say, look, I just want to speak to you something, or something's not right, it's about putting this away, removing your agenda, and just putting all your attention on them.
But sometimes kids especially, and adults do this as well, they will say stuff, but they are feeling or something completely different. So you would have experienced this in the classroom where a child says, yeah, I understand that. And really, their facial expression, their body language is saying something completely different. So sometimes we hear things, but they're not really the true answer. And we need to be able to, like you're saying, what was it, the phrase that you used? Listening
with your heart, empathetic listening.
Yeah, and when you listen to someone, you listen completely to their body language, to the way that they're expressing what they're saying. And it takes that to another level, because they might be saying half the story, or they might be saying one thing, but actually they mean something else. Until you dig deeper, you're not going to know, are you?
Yeah, digging deep. And it's like, imagine you're on a theatre and you're looking at stage and you've got a single actor on stage and you've got a beam of light shining down on them. And Sid's right, that's the awareness you need to bring, like their body language, even the way they're breathing, how they're holding themselves. Whenever I use this, we do a great little listening game with parents about this. And when you actually think about how it feels to be listened to, it's actually a magical place. And it's a place where you feel empowered, you feel valued. And if you can give that to your kids a little bit more, then guess what? It's going to help them. And I'm not saying this is a magic wand. I'm not saying you got to listen better, but we call it, like, I guess, golden time, when you have a moment of quiet and calm and connection. Just go into, we call it breakthrough listening, but go in and that listening with your heart, and it does make a difference, trust me. So the C is for contribution and connection.
We don't do it very often.
No, we're rubbish at it because we're selfish. We're human beings. 95% of the time we're listening in, backward listening for the sake of ourselves.
But we're also so distracted. in our
Yeah.
lives today, we're trying to do so many things at the same time, and we're hearing a response, but we're not really listening to what's being said. And I think that's really important here. So that's a brilliant first piece of advice.
Cool.
So and
Contribute. Connect and contribute. Contribution is the only way to gain fulfillment in life, in my eyes. And that's probably why me and you've got such great satisfaction with what we do. Because there's no better feeling than contributing to another human being or organism. If it's a dog or an animal or even a plant, like when you contribute, when you help someone, you nurture something, that's where you gain true fulfillment. I honestly fully believe that. So contribution and connection.
How can you do that within the home environment? So you're stuck with your family. How can you contribute to that?
Great. I mean, I went out to, I was doing the shop for my family today and picking up some groceries for the old woman that I'm helping in my town. So I volunteered for the local hometown and we got given an elderly person. And I bought my dad a bag of hula hoops. He loves hula hoops. And he was mowing the lawn and I said, look, here's a present. Now, I know it's a minor example, but if you can do stuff like...
Did you not disinfect it before you gave it to him?
Huh? Well, the bag?
Yeah.
I'd like to say yes, but I had some hand sanitizer before.
You need to start disinfecting. You're going to get me all panicky now. You need to disinfect everything that you bring into your house.
Okay. All right.
This is a science. It's going to be, the virus is on the stuff that you're carrying.
Okay. Well, okay. Learning. I'll write this down as well. Disinfect products. But we miss the humanity in it. So anyway, I know it's a small example, but it's, oh, thank you so much. Like a little bit of contribution. If you're a student watching this, helping your parents around the house, they might be really busy. Doing that one like half an hour study session, or just going outside and doing some exercise if you can, if you've got a garden. And just helping each other, I guess, is what I mean by contribution, even if like a little bit. And I know we can't go out and do loads of big contributing things, I guess, like fully helping people or teaching or coaching or face-to-face events for me and you, but we can contribute in small ways, whether it's helping our family members out a little bit.
I think also I've spoken about this on Facebook before, where charity now has become a vanity exercise, where people will go and support and help a charity, but then they'll make it into a huge publicity stunt. So they're doing it for recognition from others and to get more likes and all the rest of it. I think now is a chance for us to take a complete step back from the society that we've become, and to make that contribution in our house when no one else can see what we've done. It's for your own family and for yourself, and to build that connection like we haven't been able to do before.
Oh, another great thing to contribute in this time, make a list of all your contacts or 100 people. And what was it? I learned this the other day. It's so cool. So make a list of all your contacts, 100 people. And then when you've got that list, every single day, choose someone and send them a message, an email, a text, a phone call if you want to be brave, and tell them either why you're proud of them, what you love about them, or what they've achieved that you think is amazing.
Cool does this. Have you noticed?
No, he doesn't. Well, no, I haven't seen he's done it. He probably does do it because he's amazing, but I haven't seen this.
He's done this. He's called me a few times, just quite randomly just calls. And no one calls randomly anymore. People will schedule in a time to chat, and then you'll ask them beforehand, what do you want to talk about? So you'll be prepared. But he calls randomly when he's driving. He probably hasn't with you because he probably sees you more often than he sees me. He hardly sees me. So he calls and then he'll just ask how you're doing. He'll say something reassuring. He'll say something supportive. And it is so uplifting. And I've gone, how amazing is that to be able to take some time? He normally does it when he's driving. He'll have his hands free on and he'll do it that way. But now we're in the home and we want to connect with people. We want to talk. So I think that's a brilliant idea to actually do that. I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, so proud, achieve, or love something you feel for that person. And I've done it a little bit, even just reaching out more to my friends who I haven't spoken to for a while. How are you getting on?
Yeah.
And it's not just this is what I mean by like the questioning. It's not how you're getting on. Yeah, I'm fine, not bad. It's really going a bit deeper with them and say, oh, well, what's going well? What's been a highlight of your day, or what's something you're struggling with right now? and asking those deeper questions, not just the surface level. We're all up here, right? We're all like, yeah, not bad, I'm fine.
You know what? When someone asks me how you're doing, I'll be completely honest and blunt. And for a lot of people, that just kind of completely surprises them, because they're like, oh, we thought you were just going to say you're okay, because everyone else just says okay.
I always say awesome.
Hmm?
I always say awesome, even if I'm feeling rubbish. I always say
Really?
awesome, because the first ever like personal development book I read, it was Michael Heppel, How to Be Brilliant. Great book. And the language creates our reality. Now, I'm not saying if I'm feeling rubbish by saying awesome, it's going to lift my mood, because, you know, we can't really control that sometimes. But like, it starts to trick us and we start finding the positives. And when you say this to people, they had this unbelievable reaction. I was in the staff room once when I first read this, making a cup of tea. A lady comes up to me, she says, "Oh, Sam, how's your day going?" This is me stirring the cup of tea, by the way. And she's and I said, "How are you?" I said, "I'm awesome." She was like, she was probably on drugs or something. She was like, what do you mean you're awesome? Like, what's been going on? And it's that kind of conversation. Then we started talking. I had a great lesson, and this is a strategy I used, and we got talking about education. And I've actually got business from you saying I'm awesome, because people are like, "Oh, why are you awesome?" Well, I've just coached a student on their mental health and overcoming anxiety. Oh, my son might need that. Amazing. Let's get you booked in. So language is so important. It creates our reality.
But going back to being your authentic self and being who you really are, right? So I could never, unless it's someone that I have no idea who it is and it's someone randomly asking me, but even then I will be completely honest. So I've had a phone call this morning from someone I've never spoken to before, a business call, and he said, "How you doing?" And I was completely honest. I was like, "I've had a bad morning because I've been in bed all morning." But if I hadn't, I would have said so. And what I've found is, when you are completely honest, and I think it works both ways. I think when you're completely honest, even if I'm having a bad day, I'll get it off my chest. They'll say something that's positive in response, or they'll say something that will be positive, and it's out in the open, and then you move on. So I think it can work both ways. And at the same time, if you're having a bad day and someone else response is, "I'm having an awesome day," you feel even worse, because you're like, well, what am I doing wrong? So it can go both ways. I think it also depends how you say, "I'm awesome." You say it very energetically.
Yeah, I'm awesome. I'm awesome. I don't say that, but like, it's rare that you will get a response out of me and I will be honest, like if I'm feeling really, really rubbish with the people, you know, who are close to me, I will say like, "I'm not having a good day today," and it's okay. But for people I meet who are just, you know, random people, or people who I have not much connection with, like it has genuinely made me find the positives when I say that. And people might say I'm lying, and I guess it is a bit of a lie, but it's a very positive lie, and it's helped me find, like I say, more positives in kind of rubbish situations sometimes. Little trip, little, just try it. See how you go. Just try it. Say brilliant, awesome. Don't say great. Great's average. You need to say bigger than that. Like, I'm awesome, brilliant,
I think my word
fantastic.
when I was teaching was brilliant. I used to say brilliant. Like, I think one of the kids did a tally. I said it maybe a few hundred times in a hour less than once. So I used to say, "Brilliant, brilliant, you've done that, brilliant." And I didn't even notice I would say it.
Yeah. You get those words in teaching. Yeah.
What was your word? Awesome.
Yeah, awesome was pretty good. I said legend quite a lot. I was like, "Yeah, nice one, legend," like that kind of thing. Nice one, ledge.
I've heard you say that quite a few times.
Yeah, I said that in my emails for events. I'm like, "Hi, legend. Thanks for booking a ticket. You're awesome." Got to spread some positivity.
I've noticed more and more people are starting to do that, where they started to add stuff in their emails or their kind of messages, where instead of using the most common phrases, they'll use something out of the ordinary. And it makes such a big difference, because you notice it, you're like, "Oh, what a nice message." So I think that really works. But I really love the idea. So guys, if you're listening at home, call someone from your contact list. Make a list first of the people that you want to contact, and go through that list one by one. We've got plenty of time. We've got plenty of days in.
Use a text. Just say, this is me reaching out. I don't want a reply necessarily. You don't have to get back to this, but what I'm really proud, like if I could do this to Sid right now, let's do it live. Sid, I'm really, really proud of the business you've created and the amount of students you're helping and the love of learning you're bringing back into education. I think it's amazing. There you go. How do you feel?
Good.
Yeah, cool. But what I mean, like, just send that as a text and just bring that, and you'll be amazed at the responses you get and the happiness you're creating.
I think also sometimes people will say, "What are you after?"
Yeah.
I remember when I was in education and I said to one of the other staff members, I was like, "Oh, hi, how's your day going? How are you doing?" And he goes, "What are you after?" I was like, "Nothing, I'm just asking how you are." So we're in a society where people think if you're being nice to them, you're expecting something in response.
How crazy is that? How crazy is that?
So that's
Mental.
C. What was A?
A stands for action.
Okay.
So at Student Breakthrough, we're big on action. We never tell students what to do. You might think, Sam's a student life coach, which sounds a bit cringe, and he's going to tell kids how to live their lives. Like, we don't do that. What we do is ask students what they want to do. What action steps do you want to go away with? What do you actually want to go away and do this week? And it empowers them because they take responsibility and they take ownership. It's a big word there, taking ownership for their life. So, like, homeschooling is mental at the moment. I read this great post. Some families are just surviving. Some families are focusing on mental health. Some families are focusing on homeschooling. Everyone is doing different stuff. I've seen some great guru parents. Are they great? Guru parents who've got their lesson plans. They've got different colored pens. They've got timetables. And that's fine for them. But don't compare yourself to your situation and you're just trying to get through the day. And that's cool. So action is basically writing down 3 things you want to achieve that day. Bare minimum things. Even if you look back and it's like, I've got up on time. I've made my bed. I've laid in the sun. What great action steps those are. They don't have to be like, again, these posts on Instagram. If you're not like learning a side hustle or making a new skill or creating a business, then you're a loser at this time. I'm like, people just want to chill out. Like, if you want to do a side hustle, then great. If you want to start a business, great. But just 3 action steps you want to take away or do that day and stick to that. That's what A stands for.
Action steps are just about you, not about comparing it to anyone else or where other people are at this moment in time. Because I did a post on this very topic a couple of days ago saying that those people, when you see those posts on Instagram of the perfect lesson plans and everything laid out and the photos being taken, that's not reality. But it's not reality.
I know.
Like, you have this kid screaming in the background while the parents are trying to take the photos, because there is no way you can get that kind of shot without the kids messing it up. So it's not the reality of what homeschooling looks like. And if anyone thinks that's what it looks like, it's definitely not.
It's literally like us. It's like people imagining teaching, let's say 30 students with like pristine books, with all their uniform tucked in, their hair combed over, let's say, and we're standing at the front and we've got their undivided attention and they're hanging on like every word and they're all making progress and they're all going to get A stars in their exams. Like, that is not teaching. Teaching is showing up and responding, having a lesson plan, but supporting that student with learning, maybe that needs some extra support, right? Offering some praise to a student who's really struggling that day, helping someone with their emotions, and teaching and trying to do 100 other things at once. So it's never perfect, and it's a lie if people are doing that.
All the kids that are going to be trying to push your buttons to get you to react as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and that, all that stuff. Yeah. So A is action. And what basically this is kind of thinking for those parents that are watching this, if they do something amazing, if they just help you, amazing, like just 3 little action steps you want to take as a family or yourself that day. So you are making progress. Think about the compound effect, small little action steps each day add up to a big change, right? And a big difference made. So yeah, just keep it simple. 3 things, but make sure you are doing some progressing with something, even if it is laying in the garden. Like, well done you, building your town. Sounds great.
Yeah, and your vitamin D, is it C? Vitamin C?
D, vitamin D. Aren't you a scientist?
I should know this.
I'm a history teacher, I know this. Come on.
What was it, C again or D? D.
D.
E.
Yeah.
F,
vitamin F. That thing? I don't
know. Okay, so that's A. What is L?
L is leadership. The most important one, I think. I was sat in a leadership conference with the head of the army. He had a crazy name. Anyway, he was the head of the British Army in Iraq. And he was talking about leadership and how leadership with the British Army has changed from very top down, like you do this in the Second World War, and the troops not really having any freedom to express themselves or do what they want to do. They had to follow orders. To now the British Army is very much like, empowering the soldiers to make their own decisions on the battlefield and them taking their own action steps, a bit like we said last time. And I sat there and I was like, wow, this is exactly what we do with students. We help them to take ownership of their life. And that's what leadership means for me, is taking ownership and responsibility for your life. It doesn't mean being captain of the sports team, giving a rousing speech, becoming a leader in the conventional sense. It just means, how am I showing up to my life? Great question to write down. How am I showing up? How am I taking responsibility? Now, for homeschooling, I've seen some students who have struggled. The reason they struggled is they've got no routine and they're not taking ownership of that. So leadership is also like, what am I going to control today? What am I going to do today? And I've seen students who are now nocturnal, who are not like, they've got no routine. They're totally out of it. And building leadership, but sit note, like, you're an adult, it's okay. And you know your routine, which I find crazy, but I'm a morning person. I was up at 6:30 doing work today. I did it right, not in an arrogant way, but I did 2 hours of work and ran 8K before 9 o'clock today.
Wow. I got to bed at 4 a.m.
You're mad.
Bed at 11:30. So my routine is completely different.
You're mad. But then you probably think I'm mad. I don't know. So yeah, just stick to a routine, even if it's loose. Like, get your kids up at the same time. Like, make them lunch at the same time. Like, get them to make their lunch at the same time. Have some structure for their days. So they can take ownership, responsibility for their life, and build leadership. Okay, and remember, leadership is not
also really important, and we do this a lot in our workshops, that the kids have to be wanting to learn. If a child doesn't want to learn, you're just hitting a brick wall every time. You got to be in the mindset that you want to learn. And if your kid isn't ready to learn, don't force them to sit down and do work for an hour, because it's going to be a pointless exercise. I think it's really important to give them space when they need it. And then when they're ready to learn, they'll come to you. And that's the one thing that I find with a lot of people that are going from having their kids in a school environment to then starting to homeschool. They feel like they have to replicate school at home. And that's always going to be a bad move. You got to
don't do that. Yeah, don't do that.
You can't do that. You just can't do it. And plus, schools, in terms of learning, will only do like an hour's worth of learning in a whole day at primary level. At secondary, you could argue maybe it's like 20 minutes per lesson. If you take away all the setting up and all the faffing about.
Yeah, good point.
The actual focus learning is probably 2 hours at secondary, an hour at primary. And that's what you need to do.
Yeah, and here's the thing as well. Like, I don't know what's going to happen with this, but teachers are going to have to go over all this content they've been giving. And I know some schools are doing a great job. Some schools are doing a rubbish job. If you're a parent, you're like, oh my God, there's so much to do. My kids are falling behind. Like, it's a teacher's duty and job they will all sit down in September or whenever we go back and recap every single thing you're doing. Now, it is important they don't get left behind and they're still ticking it over a little bit. That's what I mean. The reaction steps. Can they read a page of a book? Can they write down answer one maths question? Something at least. But don't worry about sitting there for 5 hours,
I don't know which country this was. I didn't read the entire article, but it was basically, I don't know whether it was recent or whether it's based on a historic event, but there was this one, I need to find the article. I'm not going to be able to find it now, but there's one country where the kids were off school for a period of 4 or 5 months, and they didn't have any teaching in that period of time. And the schools actually encouraged them not to do anything at home in terms of academics. And when the kids came back again, they had a renewed energy because they'd had such a big break. They wanted to learn. They were thriving for that stimulation because they hadn't had it for a long time. And a lot of homeschoolers who go down the unschooling route, which is that they have no structure, they just let the kids do what they want. There comes a point where the kids will go to their parents, right, I want to learn now. Give me some books, give me some textbooks, because we're humans. We have this innate desire to learn and to grow and to be curious. Okay. So there's always going to be a point where the kid's going to go, I want to learn now. And even with young kids, so I know a lot of homeschoolers that won't teach reading and writing to their kids until they want to do it. So I've had kids that are 7, 8, even 9-year-olds that can't read or write, right? And this is going to sound shocking to you. And then there comes a day where they're like, I want to know what that says. And they want to learn. And suddenly within a year, they're up to scratch with their peers. Literally, I've seen this happen. In a year, they're up to scratch. And because they have this desire to be able to read that book, they want to be able to find that information for themselves rather than being told by another adult. So suddenly they're there and they're willing to learn. So I think it's really important to take leadership also in terms of giving your kids that ownership over their work. If they're not wanting to learn that day, actually say, okay, take a break. We can take a break. We'll do a different activity. We'll do art. We'll go to the garden. We'll do something different. It doesn't have to be maths today. And if you give them that break, the next time they go and sit down to do maths, there'll be that renewed energy that you didn't have. Now, this doesn't always work because some kids just hate a subject and don't want to do it. And then I think in those cases, you just have to find an alternative activity which reinforces that content, but does it in a fun and interactive way. But I love the fact that you use the word leadership as well to kind of talk about that ownership of their own work.
Yeah, it's an amazing word. And it's because at Student Breakthrough, we're not parents, we're not teachers, and a coach isn't, we never tell, it's a different relationship. It's like, if you think of this football pitch, it's like we're the midfielder and the student is the striker. So we pass them the ball. So we're not actually ever telling them or properly top down. It's always together. It's like guiding. And that's why it's such a powerful process, because it's like asking a 6-year-old, when we work with 6-year-olds, what do you want to do this week? And they're like, oh my God, I get to decide like what the action step that I take. And, you know, unfortunately, so many parents do shelter and protect and have this king or queen. I'm going to rule with an iron fist, right? Until they're 18. And it doesn't work. Like, it just leads to conflict and clashes. So you've got to release some of the power and change your approach from king and queen to a bit of a mentor, and then finally a coach, where you're just asking questions and being there for them, but you've got no real control over what happens, which is scary. I get that.
I've seen parents take the complete opposite role as well, where they don't do anything. They don't discipline their kids. They don't really take any form of control. I think you still need to remember a child is a child. They still need a structure, and within the structure, give them that flexibility, but don't just completely let them go off the rails. Because
it's a bit like teaching, you know, like, again, like, you know, we were talking about relatability and vulnerability, and yes, you need that, but students also need to know that they come to your lessons and they're going to get structure. They're going to get, like, there are consequences, and they know the routine. So I'm not saying I walked into teach and said, hey, this is me, I'm Sam, and let's just have fun. Like, they knew the rules, they knew the routine, and they do need that. So again, you can go both ways, where it's like, if we're thinking king or queen, mentor and coach, or the other way around, king, queen, mentor, coach, I guess you could have someone who's like the court jester, who's like, just do what you want. And that's real dangerous.
Yeah. I think that's as dangerous as like completely controlling them as well. Because in both respects, you're actually hindering learning and growth in different ways, but you are hindering learning and growth.
Yeah, definitely.
So we've done C, we've done A, we've done L for leadership. What's M?
M is move.
Move.
So moving, hopefully beyond obvious, but, you know, when we move our physical bodies, and it doesn't mean you have to go and run an 8K or, like, you know, do loads of press ups. It's just walking, moving your body, exercising, dancing, whatever it is. But, you know, when we move our body, it fills us with endorphins. It changes our physiology. It changes our state. And it just, well, it makes me and everyone I know who does this feel alive and positive and happy. And I think it's overlooked. Even if you do, right? I learned towards the other day, if you do 15 minutes of exercise a day, it can or could cut away, boost 3 years of life expectancy.
Oh, wow.
Study in Taiwan. So just because we're in lockdown and you might not have a garden, there's so much content out there, so many home workouts. I've seen Joe Wicks absolutely crushing it, doing his PE sessions every morning. There are no excuses for moving your body. And you don't have to do it like a circuit, like play a game with it with your kids. It could be go and find me this and have to run around the house, or create an obstacle course in the garden. Make it fun. Exercise should be fun. It doesn't have to be loads of sit-ups and press-ups and star jumps. Be creative with it, but move your body and help your kids move theirs.
I guess in the same way, the physical movement, also use your brain as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Great point.
Use your brain.
Because I knew you were going to say that. Well, I didn't know you were going to say it. It's very Sid.
Physical and mental, because I think we can be doing the exercise, we can be doing everything else, but we're not mentally stimulating our brains. And again, that can completely have a detrimental effect as well if we're not keeping busy. And I think a lot of people, even though they've been furloughed, they're still kind of like, give me something to do because I'm bored. Because boredom. Oh, I was watching this amazing video. I'm going to have to link this in somehow. I can't remember what it was called now. But basically, they did an experiment to see to what level people will go to when they're bored. And they realized that people will actually put themselves through pain to overcome boredom. Okay, so
Wow.
they had this device where if you touch it, you get electrocuted. So like you touch it, it gives you like and it's really unpleasant. And they asked this guy who touched it, they were like, would you ever touch that again? He goes, no way would I do that again. Like, no way, that was too painful, right? And then what they did, they put him in a room on his own. There's nothing else in the room. And they had the electrical device. So they were just going to leave this here. Okay. And they left him. They're like, we're going to leave you here for 45 minutes. And then we've got a meeting with you. And he had 45 minutes on his own with this device. What do you think he did? He touched it within the first 2 minutes.
No way.
He was so bored. He didn't have his phone, didn't have anything. He was just looking around. There's nothing to look at. And he just looked at the device. He touched it. And so they did this experiment, and they said that that people will overcome boredom with pain because they just can't face boredom. So if you're at home, find something to do, because there's nothing worse than boredom at the moment. So find things to do that will use your brain and stimulate you.
Yeah, Open University, they have got probably hundreds of free courses on there. If you go on the Open University website, Google free courses, or if you just go Open University free courses, there's stuff from psychology, from sports to like midwifery and all this. There's a course for every single person, and it is free. So there's no excuses, but move your body. Obviously then that boosts your mental health, right? That's no like questions about that. You move your body, you feel better, 100%. So move.
Brilliant. I think that's amazing advice there from Sam, a life coach. So if you're tuned in just now, we've just had Sam on air for the last hour and 10 minutes, which has been pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's gone quick.
It has gone quick. So Sam talked about his life. He talked about how he went into education, how he set up his company, Student Breakthrough, the work that he does through that. And we've just been discussing 4 bits of advice from Sam on how to stay sane during the lockdown. Calm. Yeah. The C was confident.
Contribution and connection.
Not confident. Contribution and connection. A was action.
Action.
Leadership.
Yeah.
And movement.
Move. Yeah.
Brilliant. Right. So now we're at the last bit of the show, which is the challenge bit. Have you been excited by this?
Yeah, I've been really, really excited. I can't wait.
Okay. So this is where we put your mindset to the challenge.
Oh,
you can overcome a challenge. So I produced this a while ago when I was doing the science radio show. So a lot of these questions are going to be science related. I haven't looked at these in ages, and I don't know what the answers are. So it's going to be interesting.
Okay. I'm a bit nervous now.
Into lots of different groups. There's a science, so it's STEAM: science, tech, engineering, arts, maths. What question do you want? What challenge?
History? I'm joking. Science?
Okay, right. I'm going to pick a science question. Let's get rid of that. I have no idea what you're going to get. Oh, right. The question is, why do we dream?
Wow.
I don't know the answer, so it's just a thought-provoking question. Why do you think we dream? What's your philosophy on dreams?
Wow. So I know that there's some people actually read dreams.
Yeah.
And they're really big into it. I do think there's a link, and it's obviously subconscious in terms of it's not our conscious thinking, it's actually sometimes what's going on underneath. When coronavirus happened, I lost lots of business. I kept having this recurring dream where I was abandoned and separated from my family and everyone I knew. Even if like it'd be like my friends would be in a group and my friends would go away and I'd be left on my own and I'd wake up. And you might say that's just random thoughts, but I felt really isolated. I felt really alone at that point with all the stuff that's going on. I was losing business and losing, obviously we had some great stuff planned. So why do we dream? Maybe it's like our brain kind of just going over thoughts throughout the day and thoughts that we kind of buried throughout the day, or something that's actually like true for us inside that we haven't really connected with. Sometimes it's random stuff, right? Like, riding a unicorn and surf on a surfboard at the same time, right? Random stuff. But sometimes when I woke up, I was like, and I kept having this dream. I was like, this is definitely trying to tell me something.
Have you been having dreams every single day since the lockdown?
Yeah, I'm quite a light sleeper, and we get our dreams when we're in this, like, I can't remember what it's called. It's not REM. There's different stages of sleep.
Yeah.
And I struggled with my sleep for many, many years. Like, that's why I reached out to a coach, because I was pretty broken. I've gotten over it now to an extent. I still get my bad nights, but I'm a bit of a light sleeper. So when you're in that light sleep, that's where we dream. You might think when you dream, you're in this deep sleep, but it's not. You're actually like sort of semi-awake a lot of the time.
I've noticed since the lockdown, I've been having dreams every single night.
Yeah. So is that not uncertainty? The U word again, but uncertainty, is that not because it's different, and maybe that's why you're dreaming?
But they're not reoccurring dreams like you were getting. They're all different, varied dreams with different people and different scenarios. And sometimes I don't remember when I get up, but it's really interesting that I've dreamt so vividly, and then I wake up and then it's completely gone. But every single night.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of actually gone away now. I feel a bit more content. But when it first started, it was really bad. And I've had some great dreams recently, like, winning sports matches with my favorite teams, like singing the national anthem. And then I wake up, I'm like, oh, it's not me. It's not real life. What do we dream? I think it's definitely something in our subconscious thinking that is just processing stuff. But it's in the light stages of sleep. It's really important to note this. It's not in deep sleep. It's actually when we're kind of semi-awake, when it does happen. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird, isn't it?
Wacky kind of theories, because I sometimes reckon maybe we're connecting with another soul from a different universe or planet, and we're actually meeting them, and we're experiencing. Maybe we're not even alive, really. Maybe we're in someone's dream. Like, how do you know we're not like disconnecting from their dream to go into a different dream world?
But it's like, I've got two dogs downstairs, and when they dream, you've obviously, if you've seen a dog dream, it's really funny because they're like jump like this, and they're obviously they're maybe chasing something in their head, and they'll like twitch and they'll almost like run with it. And they're probably, I always envision them like chasing a rabbit or chasing a squirrel or something, and maybe they're dreaming about a result like that.
Dream?
Yeah, 100%.
I've never really thought about it from an animal perspective. We've got parrots. Do they dream? I wonder what they dream.
Crackers, and parrots eat crackers.
That's pretty weird.
What do parrots eat? There's another question for you.
Seeds, fruits. They eat what we eat. We give them dinner as well, and toast. They love toast.
They love toast.
They love toast.
Can they like recall what you say? Are they that clever?
So my parrot can say the entire family's names. It laughs like my dad. It does the doorbell. It does the ringing tone. It says hello. It does the ringing tone, and then it says hello. It knows loads of phrases, and it speaks multiple.
Crazy. So you should get her on the podcast and see the parrot.
He won't say anything on air. Like when you're trying to record him, he doesn't. I don't know. Like he knows.
Stage fright.
He won't say it. He won't say anything on air. It's really weird. So you think dreams are just our subconscious mind?
Subconscious mind and I do think at times they are telling us stuff that we are suppressing.
So do you listen to your dreams?
I've done some research on it again. Like I've had some dreams about really horrible stuff like death and destruction, and that's linked to uncertainty. And I Googled it. I was like, what does a dream mean when there's people dying? Not like the first thing to do
is to Google stuff.
Yeah. Google has to be right. And it was about uncertainty and that kind of stuff. Like when you dream about nasty things, then you're going through a time of change. That's what it said.
I have weird dreams. Like in the past, I've had dreams of being chased by dinosaurs. Falling off a cliff is a big one.
Yeah, I get that. I think everyone gets that. Again, when you're about to fall asleep and you feel like you're about to fall, and then you wake up. I get that.
Then I've had one where I've been shot, and I hit the wall as the bullet hit me.
Wow.
That was dramatic. I was in tears when I woke up.
Yeah.
They're very vivid as well, and it's kind of weird that to imagine that is all it is. Maybe there's like some other, I don't know, weird connection.
Yeah, it's hard because some people, and I do kind of argue with this, like, you know, you probably go to a dream reader coach. There's probably a dream reader out there and you can go and see, and all this, put a dream catcher over your bed. I don't know how much truth there is to it, like that it's something that we should really study. But it was interesting where I felt isolated and I kept having the same dream of being isolated. And maybe it was me.
Two people could be having the same dreams and you experience a dream together.
Wow. That's quite a cool thought, actually.
So I always thought that was true because I have dreams about being in other parts of the world, parts I've never visited. And I'm like, I don't know these people. They could actually be real people that are also dreaming what I'm dreaming, and I'm in their dream and they're in mine. Crazy. Right, let's do a different question. Right, next letter. You can't pick S again. So
we got, what's TEAM? What we got? Technology.
Technology, engineering, arts, maths.
Let's go technology.
Technology. Right, guys, if you're watching this, we need some new questions. So I've only got a couple. Once these run out with the interviews, I'm gonna need some more. So you need to send me some more. Oh, what is technology? I find this really difficult to define because at what point does engineering?
I thought straight away to the Industrial Revolution.
Isn't that more engineering though?
Well, I'd argue like a steam train. I'll argue steam-powered boats.
Isn't that engineering?
No, that's technology.
But isn't technology more electronics?
No, I see technology as like, okay, can we not argue when man first gripped a tool and broke a coconut with a sharpened stick? That was technology.
Invented something which makes him an engineer. That's not technology though, is
No,
it?
you can be an inventor of technology, can you not?
You can, but okay, so what is the difference between engineering and tech in your mind? Because I've never found a definition.
Engineering for me, I just get this generic stereotype of cars and all like big like building projects, and I don't know, all like big engine. That's just what I see as engineering, but I know it's very more technical than that, and that hasn't done justice in the slightest.
Trains are more technology, but isn't that engineering? Because you make the engine in it.
It's funny you say technology has to be present day stuff, because I wouldn't say it is. I say it's.
Well, I don't know. I'm asking.
Whenever people have invented or innovated something and created something, that's technology, I think.
So you think all the previous scientists that designed something new, like for example, we've been learning about Ibn al-Haytham, who did the camera obscura in our light camp at the moment. So he produced. So people would argue he was a scientist and an engineer. You're saying that was a piece of technology, the camera.
I don't know. Well, the camera.
He made a box with a little hole. It projected an image. That was his first simple camera.
But doesn't technology depend on the time of like you're alive? Because if we were there, we'd say, "Oh wow, that's pretty cool technology."
I don't know whether they had the word for technology back then.
Yeah, maybe you're right. I don't know. Maybe you're right.
I don't know what the answer is. I think it's interesting that when we talk about STEM and we talk about STEM subjects, we separate the technology from the engineering. But I've never found a definition that's kind of convinced me they're two separate things. I think they go hand in hand very closely, and you can't separate them.
But if they had that word, I'm just thinking if they had, let's say they did have the word, right, when man first found a tool to break a coconut or whatever, let's say, that is technology, because they've got, it's maybe not be tech, but isn't it something that's been created to benefit something? Like this is technology, I guess. And I guess that I don't know, I'm just.
So it's technology, things that have been produced to enable to make our lives easier.
Yeah, like would you not? Yeah, I mean, maybe not my caveman example, but maybe like
cars,
like Stephenson's rocket, right? Stephenson's rocket was a train, a very early steam train, the first real steam locomotive. I would argue that is technology.
I would argue that's engineering.
Well, because
What's the difference between engineering and tech? Give me an example of technology in your home and one of engineering.
right here, technology here.
Okay, what's engineering then?
See, I've got this backward view of engineering. Not backward, but it's kind of, I know there's so much different types of engineering. I just look at a car. That's why I see as engineering.
But isn't car a technology? The amount of technology in a car. You're going to spend the rest of the day now trying to research what the difference is between the two.
Yeah, I'll let you know. I've been on a podcast for an hour and a half. I'm a bit sort of trying to wrap my head around this.
Because there's no answer. I don't think there's a right answer out there, unless someone has a right answer. I don't. I definitely don't. I'm just being the devil's advocate. And
yeah, please let us know. Please let us know if you do.
I'd love to know. If you know what the difference is between technology and engineering. I don't know what the difference is. I think for me, I always think engineering is something that someone invents, because an engineer is someone that combines application of science with something practical. So when you're designing something, you're inventing it. But you could easily make a paper tower, and that's a piece of engineering, because you're using the application of science.
Yeah.
So then, by that definition, then technology would be the use of, I don't know. Maybe it's
funny when you said technology, I thought straight of Industrial Revolution, which doesn't make any sense, but it's only because of my history thing. I know that was a big moment of change, but then we could argue that the Renaissance, when people actually started focusing on science and not the church.
I think it'd be interesting to see when the word technology was coined, and whether it came more recently when we got the digital aspect of things happening. I think that would be really fascinating. I don't know the answer to that, but I think I'm going to go away and have a look.
Yeah, cool.
And let you know. Right, so we've reached the end of our 90-minute podcast. Have you enjoyed yourself?
I've loved it. It's been really, really fun. And I like just kind of the best podcast to me, just showing up and seeing how it goes. And I think we really did that today. So thank you so much. It was awesome.
You messaged me like an hour before and you were like, "Oh, are you still up for the podcast?" I was like, "Yeah, we don't know what we're going to talk about." It'll be great. We had a loose structure. So that's my tick on was it the action bit? Having my
taking action, a bit of leadership, a bit of, you knew where you were going, but having I call it a skeleton of like, this is what we could do, and if we do it, that's cool, but we can also go off, and I think that's a great place to be.
Brilliant. I'm glad I've reached some approval from Sam.
There you go.
So how can we find out information about you? I'll put this into the description as well once you've sent me the information through, but links to, so how do we find out what you do? If people are interested in finding out more about Student Breakthrough, about your work, how can they reach out?
Great stuff. So the social links, if you can see it up here, is at Student Breakthrough. That's on Facebook and Instagram. So give us a like, follow us. We've got some great inspirational content on there. If you're a student going through a little bit of a challenging time, we're offering coaching sessions, which is our 3B program of Boost, Believe, and Breakthrough, which you can kind of see here. That's our student coaching program, and we're offering free sessions at the moment for that. If you're a teacher or a parent and you want to learn how to coach, you want to learn how to revolutionize emotional support, help young people with their mental health, we offer coach training programs for you guys. We've got a podcast called The Breakthrough Pod, and tomorrow we're filming an online course, or putting it all together, sorry, I should say, so we can help more students with homeschooling, mental health, anxiety, confidence, motivation. So look out for that. That's really exciting as well. So loads going on, but yeah, please do Facebook and Instagram, Student Breakthrough, or the website is studentbreakthrough.com.
Looks like you've got loads of things happening at the moment.
Well, that's what I love. This whole thing lost so much. I've lost thousands of pounds, so much business, but I've done 10 free webinars with people all across the world. Started a podcast, online course coming out next week. We've got a couple of schools on board, and we're training new teachers in our coaching programs. So it's exciting.
Brilliant. A brilliant can-do attitude. So thank you so much, Sam, for being on my first Home Ed Me podcast. Hopefully I'll have you at some point again in the future. and I look forward to working with you. So thank you guys for listening in.
Thank you.
It's been a brilliant first podcast. Let me know your comments, like the page, share the page, and let me have some questions for when we have some new guests coming up. So thank you guys. We're going to be back again next Thursday between 3:30 and 5 p.m. So I'll see you guys soon. Bye.
Thank you guys. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.